Yes, sir, you are audible. And your slides were also visible when you shared it.
Okay. Can I show that my slide? It is in edit.
Yes, sir, you can share your slide.
One is me. Okay. Yeah. Should I be speaking on? John?
Is it visible now?
Not yet, sir. तो नेट नहीं चल रहा है.
Am I visible? Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Yeah,
How are you,
we can hear
sir?
you and we can. I am fine, sir. Welcome.
Yeah, my can I show my slide?
Yes, sir, you can share your slide.
Yeah. Is it?
Yes, visible, sir.
Sir, now it is visible.
Okay. To next slide. Is it moving slide?
No, sir, it is not.
Rocky ma'am, update.
It's on the same slide only.
It's moving? No, same slide or?
Sir, it is on the same slide. It is not moving.
Is it moving? My slides.
Your slide is not visible, sir.
Oh.
So it's not visible yet. Maybe if you could just try again.
Is there now? No.
It's still not visible, sir.
हेलो हेलो हाँ सर बोले सर हाँ सर
Mita madam, you
Okay.
can mute yourself. Samanathan sir, you can like I think log
Yes,
out and
yeah. Can I log out?
yeah, if you log out and log in again, then it will I think share.
Okay.
In the meantime, all attendees are requested to please mute their mics.
Unmute. कहाँ है यार कुछ दिख ही नहीं रहा
I request you to mute yourself.
Dr. Samanthan, are you ready? Should we start?
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are.
And my slides?
Not your slides yet, sir. Have you started sharing?
Yeah, this is my slide. Now stop sharing, it says. I think it is.
Sir, if you could stop it and then share it once again because it's not visible as of now.
Is it now visible?
Not yet, sir, but sometimes it takes a couple of seconds to boot.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you're audible. Absolutely. No problem there.
Yeah, but I am giving the share only.
It could be network related, sir, because at times it does take some time to come on. But you were able to do it a couple of minutes back, sir. If you could just repeat that procedure.
That bad network it is. I don't know. Just 1 minute.
Site is loading.
Do you want us to create it for you? If you could email it to us.
We did ask him, Rakhi ma'am, for it, but then he said that he would like to keep the mouse control with himself. So.
All right.
It says bad network. I don't know.
Yes, sir, it's probably the reason. It's visible now, sir. Perfect. It's come on.
It's visible now. At least I will not show it. It will just.
Yes,
okay.
sir. Yes,
Good
sir.
afternoon. I think all of you can hear me, and also the slide. Is it visible now?
Absolutely, sir. We'll just make a formal start, and I'll introduce you formally to the audience. I welcome everyone to this faculty development program on learning outcomes-based curricular framework, which the university has taken upon itself to organize, and of course couldn't have done it without the support of Professor Sambanthan. I welcome you, sir, as well as all my colleagues to this forum. A quick introduction to why we felt this FDP is important. It's actually a high priority task in the context of future education development agenda in India, which is to foster quality higher education. Further improvement of the quality of higher education is considered critical for enabling effective participation of young people in knowledge production, improving national competitiveness in a globalized world, and for equipping them with skills of global and national standards. Therefore, sustained initiatives are required for institutionalizing an outcome-oriented higher education system and for enhancing the employability of graduates through curricular reform based on the LOCF. It is precisely for this reason that the university has planned this FDP on LOCF and decided to invite Dr. Sambanthan to walk us through what this framework actually means. It is a pleasure and privilege to formally introduce our resource Dr. Sambanthan to all of you. He's a former professor and head of the CSE department at the National Institute of Technical Teachers Training and Research, that's NITTTR, a centrally funded institution of the MHRD Government of India in Chennai. With a background in civil engineering, Dr. Sambanthan holds an ME with distinction from the IISc Bangalore and a PhD from IIT Madras. He has obtained a blend of industrial research and teaching training experiences of several years from India and abroad. As a software professional, Dr. Sambanthan has the credit of developing over 1,500,000 lines of coding on the Unix platform in and outside the country. In 1998, he was sponsored by the World Bank to the Huddersfield University in the UK on curriculum development and computer science. In 2000, he was nominated to Manila, the Philippines, on computer applications in technical education and training under the Colombo Plan. And in 2017, he was nominated to Dhaka, Bangladesh, as part of the TVET CPSC program on outcome-based education, that is OBE for short. Dr. Sambanthan's areas of interest include concept extractions, learning grids and computer science education, instructional designs, OBE, CDIO, as well as e-learning. Of course, he's presented numerous papers in national and international journals of repute, talked at conferences and seminars. He has led and guided 13 PhDs, 6 are ongoing, and of course, and has won awards and distinctions from various organizations, including the Jawaharlal Nehru Memorial Award from the University of Madras. It's my absolute delight to welcome you, sir, to this faculty development program, and I hand over to you now to take us through what exactly is learning outcomes-based curricular framework in the context of higher education institutions. Over to you.
Thank you, madam. Thank you, madam. And namaskar to everyone. I hope all of you are hearing me. And at the outset, I would like to acknowledge my sincere thanks to the organizers of this program, particularly to Professor Vijay Rathore of the CSE Department of IIS University for taking a personal initiative in inviting me. And I'm also grateful to Professor Rakhi Gupta and Dr. Remika, who are, I'm very grateful to all of you for giving me this. This program is a very short program of 1.5 hours. It has been very aptly designed. The title, The Need of the Hour. And a part of a huge program which I have developed and I am offering it technology, but now this program I have modified for humanities and sciences. It is not possible to cover this huge program in a 1.5 hours, so I'll just give a background and overview of the outcome-based instructional systems. I suppose all of you could see my slides and also hear my voice. I'm sorry I'm unable to show it because of some technical problem. I will go to my slides. I have over 250 publications and references, and Killen, one of the authors and pioneers of outcome-based education, he says that many educational systems across the world, I will also put it, I will take the liberty in including your institute's name also, that many institutions in India, they are simply in or OBE, only superficial aspects only have been taken care of and completely ignored the learning outcome or the teaching, learning and assessment processes. Learning and assessment, the teaching, learning and assessment, and which emphasizing in today's lecture. I will also point out some of the accreditation, the Washington Accord and other accords and the NAAC's recommendations. For example, when Washington Accord came in 1989, and it is when it was signed in Washington, many accrediting bodies started this one, including the ABET, Accreditation Board for Engineering Technology. If you look at that signature by engineers, particularly the professional engineers, and no education body can use the ENT. We will be concentrating in humanities and sciences. These graduates must be immediately be is wanted. When educational institutions mention what to prepare and life-term earning for our graduates. Then they rethought, and then the first accords came into existence in 1989. For industries. Now, but with this one, the attributes, when it started, it became as standards. In my opinion, it kept India should have joined there. It is a matter of debate, because what NAC has done, NAC not as the 12 standards, but it has restricted to 5 or program specific outcome. In my again, all of it is program standard POs. For example, economic student of your institute. Let us institutions or some other universities to continue his which may be provided both the institutions are similar or same. If it is not so, then the student cannot horizontally migrate. This is the origin idea behind standards that recommend NAC. It is not standard recommended PO to be in a little while that POs, COs are not outcomes actually. I repeat, POs or COs are statements describing about learning outcome. Learning outcomes are the real outcomes and not POs and COs. In fact, everything is outcome. Graduate attributes or PEO, everything is outcomes only, because the best word for outcome is outcome. That is why it has been used liberally. But actually, the learning outcome is the measurable outcome, what the student has already attained. That is what we should concentrate, and that no institute is actually concentrating in LOs. They all simply write down their vision, mission, PEO, and then PO, they take some standards, and then they write down some COs of a particular program. That is what it is being happening, and they bother about LOs. For example, here, the exit outcomes, or it is also known as the PEO or the graduates, which is various or am I in the right track? Am I audible and the slides are visible?
Yes, sir, you
Can
are
I go
audible
ahead?
in your slide. Yes, sir, you can go on.
Okay, okay. Now we will not concentrate much on the accreditation. It will come at an appropriate place. Now, when we look at this accreditation, it all concentrates to an educational philosophy called OBE, or outcome-based education. Whatever be the accords, or you can have in future your own accord, like Jaipur Accord from your university can start for humanities and sciences. You can even include countries from our SARC or so on. You can design your own accord, but you have to invariably go in for outcome-based education as a philosophy. I'll just mention the difference between the traditional methods, which most likely you are following in your institute. You will understand how OBE is different from the traditional method. The traditional method, what you are following is traditional, linear, syllabus-oriented, time-bound, examination-driven, serialistic system. Now, these parameters will clearly define what is OBE. OBE is non-linear. It is learner-centric. It is deviating from teacher-led. It is deviating from serialistic, because you start from a broad goals called holistic. It is not examination-driven system, but it is it is objective driven, not even objective specific. You can specify only the outcome. As I was mentioning to you, outcome is the best word for outcome, and it is, you are going to ask the student what is the outcome he has got. So it is not objective specific, but outcome specific, but objective driven, and it is flexible. It is choice-based credit system. In fact, it is partially creditable and partially gradable choices-based system is needed by OBE. Without that, it is not possible. Since I was already mentioning to you that OBE, the teaching learning process, you cannot isolate from assessment. It is not examination driven, but it is continuous formative assessment. For each and every instruction, you are assessing student, and he is not worried about his final examination. Every time he is assessed and the progress is noted, and it is thematic, that is, design your classroom teaching or your instruction or your assessment instruments from the top down, that is from your vision to the bottom of delivery. But for delivery, it is bottom up. So this is non-linear, because from linear you have to go to the top. What you are aiming for your students, to take your students to their aspiring learner characteristics from their current learner characteristics. So the teaching learning assessment process is the root, and you are following OBE. We will concentrate more on the OBE. We will also touch upon the accreditation point, because we have to give the entire overview in a 1.5 hours time. Now this picture is a bit confusing. Had I used a show command, I do not know. There is a technology in giving you a show command, but what it is, we will start from the top. Your institute is spearheading to a well-defined future. And where exactly you are defining the future, you cannot remove or you cannot cover the core values of your institute. For example, the Shantiniketan Institute, Vishwa Bharati University has very clearly mentioned about the core values even 100 years back. At this juncture, I will mention the Nobel laureate Rabindranath Tagore mentioned. Everyone is genius. So everyone can graduate, but everyone is genius and everyone can bloom, not on the same day, not in the same way. After 100 years now, Spady, one of the pioneers in outcome education, says everyone can graduate, not in the same way, not in the same day. So that means every institute will differ from their core values, and accordingly, you have to define in your vision mission. At the end of this program, I will show you 2 institutes, how they have defined from their vision mission to PEO to PO, LO, up to LO, 2 programs, both in the computer application area. Into an example I will show you, and you will understand how they are different from each other. In fact, you cannot compare between institute to institute according to OBE, because OBE, you are defining with your core values a specific definition through vision mission. To cover the academic, social, and civic, then you come to the constituents, which form the major governing, who govern your institute and your program. And they only verify whether your institute is moving towards, spearheading towards that particular definition. And then you have different programs in your institute. For example, economy. I will consider economy as a case example. And you assume that I will enact myself as a student of economy from deep south. I am joining your institute. Let us presume that, because to understand what is learner-centric, which is totally a paradigm, it is paradigmly different from the teacher-led program. You will understand, the teachers will understand what is learner-centric only after about 2 weeks of program. Then only you will understand. Learner-centric doesn't mean learners learn, and teacher-led doesn't mean it is teacher is leading. It is a world of a difference between teacher-led system to learner-centric difference approach. Now you define your PEOs or program educational objectives. This is a long-term objective. After graduating from economy, I will go to industries, or I will take up a job, I will become a consultant, or I will become a researcher, whatever it could be, according to what you have taken me, which is defined in the vision, mission, and also the PEOs. And accordingly, I will go out, and after 3 years of my graduation or 5 years of graduation, you try to find out whether I have reached that goal, that outcome. That if we call the exit outcome, the PEO is measured. That is why it is called, this is the only place which the O means objective. All other places it is outcome. And there is a world of a difference between outcome and objective. Now, after my graduation, you are finding out whether I have attained that objective according to your goal which you have defined. Then it comes to specific definition, another definition of PEOs. Now, the PEOs is taken from standards. For example, Washington Accord or Dublin Accord or Seoul Accord or Sydney Accord. They are all meant, most of them are for technicians, technologies and engineering technology. In humanities and sciences, for a specific vision, mission, or for a set of PEOs, you can define your own outcomes and make it a standard. Right now, NAC has consulted the Washington Accord, and they have defined 5 outcomes as PEO. They have stated very clearly that they are recommendations only. They are not standards. You can slightly deviate. If you want to have another outcome or several sets of outcome, they have recommended that you can use PSOs or program specific outcome. In my opinion, everything is program specific. For example, in an economy, you can specify 12 or 13 or 10, depending upon your vision, mission, where you are taking the students up. Now, then comes several courses you can have under economy. Though then maybe sociology could be there, or psychology could be there, or management could be there. Whatever it could be, you have to define a set of outcomes what the students is achieving at the end of the course. So you can call it at every unit outcome. There will be an outcome which is defined as COs in the beginning. Now, since it is defined in the beginning, it cannot be actually outcome. So program outcome or COs or POs are actually statements describing the learning outcomes which is coming at the end. Now, the learning outcome is the actual outcome. Since there is no equivalent word for CO and PO, many people mistake these to be outcomes. The actual outcomes are LOs. The several outcomes have been arrived at by various pedagogists or educationists throughout the world, like Jonas and Tesmer and Mazzano, and many others have arrived at these learning outcomes. For example, semantic mapping is an LO, which you cannot change. It has got a specific definition. And articulating socioculture, it is a learning outcome. You cannot change that term. And like that, there are 400, 500 outcomes, learning outcomes are available in the world. You have to appropriately select and then map it with your CO and PO. Unless this is done, the students are not actually obtaining the LOs. For example, performing virtuosity. It is a learning outcome attained by the student at a particular instant of instructions. For example, you are teaching the WTO in the economy class. I'm not an economist actually. Just for a sample, let us take the WTO or World Trade Organization, how the structural adjustment. Now the student, after learning this particular structural adjustments of WTO, he argues for local Indian condition. For example, in a pan-Indian condition, because, for instance, your vision mission is for pan-Indian rural uplift, let us assume. So my understanding as a student of economy will be the WTO's structural adjustment will be for rural uplift. So I will be obtaining the learning outcome performing virtuosity. Performing virtuosity is given by Jonas and Tesmer and many other educationists. So that should be appropriately put in authentic task. Then when you are defining a topic. Actually, there is no topic when the student is going to attain this learning outcome. It is a concept in economy, for example. In a concept of economy with specific reference to your vision mission, which is for pan-Indian rural uplift. For instance, I talk about. Then this learning outcome will be totally different from another institute in which economy is taught, and the outcome could be different. So that is why a student and student cannot be compared in outcome-based education. Similarly, institute to institute, you cannot compare. So once I obtain this LO, like performing virtuosity, a teacher is measuring using a rubric. A rubric is a qualitative measure because I am applying the performing virtuosity with respect to rural uplift. And another institute, another student is developing an outcome with performing virtuosity for globalization. So both could be different. And not only that, the most important aspect is you are also letting me to develop in competencies like my attitude and my skill, maybe communication skill. I am able to debate on what I have understood for a specific condition which is specified in your vision mission. So I am able to articulate. So it is articulating socio-culture is an outcome which has imbibed the communication skill with my attitude, which is for specific Indian condition in my core content. The core content is, as I told you, it is WTO structural adjustment in economics. I suppose you have understood. So it is not only the core content which as a student I am learning, I am also improving by imbibed competencies, namely the skill in articulation or communication skill for a specific core subject, and also putting it with my social attitude for uplifting rural community because your vision is for pan-Indian condition. Now, this is the most important aspect you should understand. Once as a student, I don't attain this specific LO, namely performing virtuosity, then OBE is not implemented in your institute. This is because OBE is measured through these pyramidal activities. I have mentioned the volume of documents created by OBE is, and the student activities is proportional to this pyramid. And so the activities are more here and it is very less here. Now, let us go to quality education. After all, what for OBE is implemented? It is for quality education. If you remember, what the recent government has declared is specifically an outcome-based education, particularly for higher education. What the students should come out is flexibly he himself learns. And there is a distinctly difference between the OBE adapted in lower level and the higher level. In fact, OBE failed for lower education in South Africa or United States or Western Australia in the early 2000s. Now they have changed, but it has been very successful in higher education because you cannot expect a student to have a semantic mapping or critical thinking ability from a school student. Up to the age of around 15 or so, maybe 10th standard in our Indian system, you can expect only two learning outcomes. One is joy of learning. You should come to school and enjoy learning. That is the basic idea. And also only one outcome you can expect from a school student, namely recalling mental ability. You cannot expect him to have amplitude problem solving ability or critical thinking ability, etc. because abstract thinking capability comes only after 10th standard or +1, +2, like that he develops. And in higher education, when he comes to your institute, your university, he is a full-fledged self-regulated learning student. So you should allow him. You cannot give him spoon feeding in the higher education scenario. Spoon feeding is all right in the lower education up to 9th standard or 10th standard. Then it should suddenly changes because development of spike is taking place in the upper education or higher education. This you should bear in mind. Now, I have mentioned here that for POs and PEOs, you require a standard, and NAC has given 5 recommended POs that has been taken from the Washington Accord. Never mind, as I was mentioning to you, you can develop your own outcome statements, POs. POs are statements describing the learning outcome which the student is supposed to have attained. Now, when you are how to go to quality education, quality means these various components like the definition. There is one definition in vision mission, there is another definition in PEO, there is another statements in POs, again statements in COs. But the COs will finally become, once the student has attained various LOs, this will be mapped to every COs or unit outcome, you can call it, with for every authentic task for a key learning area. Now you must again understand one important concept, what is known as key learning area. You can now presently you have syllabi. Now the syllabi will be given to a teacher, will be totally independent in developing. He will have the freedom in developing his own syllabi. Or he will refer to a body like UGC or AICT or NBA or NAC, whatever it could be. They have defined only, or they are supposed to have defined only the key learning areas. For instance, in economy, there are some key learning areas defined by these bodies. Now, as a teacher of economy, you can take out a particular key learning area, then develop the POs and COs according to your definition here. Now, once it is defined, the LOs cannot be attained. It is very important to note down by the teachers. LOs cannot be attained by merely covering the topics what the teachers are currently doing. It is not covering the topic, it is uncovering the concept for attaining the LO. This is extremely important for the teachers, because the teachers allow the higher education students to self-regulate his learning. And the learning is not only the core content in the subject, he is imbibing the competencies, namely a skill component, for example, a communication skill. And then the attitudinal component, for example, societal responsibility. We will see about it in a little while. So the most important aspect here is you cannot compartmentalization, which is what currently you are doing. Most of the institutes in India are doing. And you must go to holism. Holism is for a holistic approach in the teaching learning process. How to integrate that? That is why the thematic based OB is coming. A theme, which is a central tenet must come, and that is according to OBE is the learner. The learner is placed in the center of the system. As I told you, I am going to enact as your student. For instance, I am coming from let us assume that I am coming from a very remote village of South India to your institute to become an economist. I have come with a high expectancy that you are going to make me a very great economist. I have certain limitations. For example, my communication skill is not okay. My understanding of the Indian system is not okay. I know only the subject content. It is up to you as a teacher to make me to imbibe the qualities of communication skill or whatever be the attitude, etc., and then make me an economist. So how to do it? Let us see the system of outcome-based education. This is a paradigm difference between the traditional method of the teaching learning to the outcome-based education. The outcome-based education, the learner learns by himself. That doesn't mean the teacher is out. The teacher becomes a facilitator. He is not a boss on the stage. He is not a sage on the stage. He allows the learner to learn by himself. And by nature, the student of a higher education would love to learn by himself. And you please allow him. That is taking place through a pedagogical concept called metacognitive domain. This is a new addition of OBE, and that should be taken care of in all the activities of your teaching learning process. Because a learner is affected by this metacognitive domain, it is additional domain than the cognitive domain or the psychomotor domain or the affective domain. It is one more domain called the metacognitive domain. From my research finding of around 280 publications or so, believe it or not, outcome-based education is following exploratory learning principle, which is an important aspect of metacognitive domain. And again, I tell you, believe it or not, it originated from ancient India, because in ancient India, this has been published in elsewhere in United States and other publications. I have references. The Upanishad means teaching learning process. The basic meaning of Upanishads is the teaching learning process, and the metacognition originated in ancient India. It was very much practiced by our ancient rishis, and even Adi Shankara has followed this to teach his students. And they have differentiated between the lower level students, where they used to simply memorize the Vedic principles, but they will understand and argue using reasoning principles in the higher education. So this has been very much defined and practiced. Unfortunately, around 200 years, this was removed, and this current system, which was adapted, it was forced by the Britishers, which came to India. And now we are going back to this metacognitive system through an accord specified by elsewhere to our own system in Indian system, which is exploratory learning principles, in which learner is kept at the center and all the components are around the learners. If he's not getting placement, then there is something wrong with the learner. We must go and find out through qualitative measure, using feedbacks and feed forward using rubrics. It could be holistic rubrics, or it could be an analytical rubrics or generic rubrics. Rubric is an instrument for measuring the imbibed competencies, namely skill and attitude. It can be measured along with the core content. You cannot isolate from the core content. You cannot say for communication skill, we have a department of English department. It is not so. For example, a student of economy, I should practice, I should debate about the economic principles using my own ability, which I have developed in, for example, semantic map or articulating socio-culture. These are all the learning outcomes. Through learning outcomes, I am able to demonstrate my competency. Now, similarly for other, am I audible? Is there a problem?
No, sir.
Okay.
You can continue.
Yes, okay. I'll go ahead with it. Okay, these are all some of the terminologies will keep on coming. I'm sorry to use very many terminology, because what to do? OBE is an educational philosophy. It is a principle which every teacher must understand. I am not degrading any teacher. The current teacher in an Indian system, they have not yet understood what is OBE. Now, when we want to shift to the new latest education policy, what government has declared right now, every teacher must switch over to outcome-based education. Now let us go to the outcome-based education. I would recommend you to go through a reference known as A Beautiful Tree by Dharampal. He has written in the British time, he is no more. You go through the book called A Beautiful Tree, which was there in Indian system in before 250 years. A student is developing. That is what Swami Vivekananda also has mentioned. It is development of the knowledge what a human being is already possessing. That is what we are going to do in outcome-based education. It is a developmental system. It is a non-linear system. Everything in the world is non-linear. Unfortunately, we have cut down to a linear system in our education, the present traditional education. Now, when you look at the tree, a student joins your institute. Now, you have various characteristics in your institute. I'm talking specifically to your institute because you have to develop the teaching learning process, assessment process, etc. specifically for your institute. That is because you have your own definition in the vision, mission, PEO, etc. Once you have defined in your own vision, it is called shareable vision, mission, shareable across the global scenario, environment. For example, it is rural uplift is your vision. There could be rural uplift in Uzbekistan. Both the institute might share. Sharing not only students but teachers. You can go to Uzbekistan, they will come to you in the economy or in some other discipline, and your students also could migrate horizontally. That is possible because you have clearly mentioned in your PEO, and PEO is specifically mentioned for a particular program, namely economy. Now, once with the different characteristics, you have a specific institutional characteristics. Your style of teaching, your laboratory practices, etc., etc., your teaching methods, your VLE, virtual learning environment. Another important aspect is VLE. Without a virtual learning environment, for example, Moodle is an open source software which will imbibe competency. It is an open source software. Or Joomla is another administrative software. Without such a software, it is impossible to measure a particular student's competency. Maybe he is what stage he is developing in communication skill or in attitude, along with the core competency. According to your vision mission, it will not be possible for a single teacher to measure. It will be millions of records it will create in a semester or a trimester or in a different time, because in a choice-based credit system, a 3-credit course, a student could leave after completion of 1 credit. He will go to some other department. An economy student will go to music department. That is his interest. He could go. And then the gradable system might follow by the teacher in the 2nd stage, in the 2nd credit, and so on. During the 2nd credit, some other course could start. And that's why it will become very complex. And only through a VLE or virtual learning environment, you could implement. So you have assessment characteristics, you have teacher characteristics, instructional characteristics, etc. The student is slowly developing in his learner characteristics. So you must find out using a social environment and universal core content, because this is what the difference between humanities and sciences and engineering technology comes. In outcome-based education of ENT, this is contemporary core logics of industries. But in humanities and sciences, you take a universal core competencies, core contents, maybe in economics or commerce or physics or chemistry or even literature or fine arts, whatever it could be. For a specific vision, mission, PEO, you are developing that student. So from his current learner characteristics, in the 3 areas like the core competency and the skill competencies and the attitudinal competencies, he is developing. And finally, but slowly, he is graduating, and he becomes good at entrepreneurship. He could become socially responsible. He has developed in communication skill. He has also developed ethics. In your core competencies, in your core, it is imbibed competencies. He is able to perform well in teams or project management, etc., in which you see here this started yielding fruits after graduation. He is becoming good at communication in his own core competency. So he is becoming a full-fledged graduate according to the attributes in which you have designed in your institution. All right. Now I will go to the very essential part of learning outcome. The learning outcome, again I repeat, it is different from POs or COs. POs are statements describing the learning outcome already attained. CO is the course outcome statement of the learning outcome already attained. Therefore, POs or COs are only statements. They cannot be outcome. But in colloquial term, we use the term outcome. What is the outcome? As I was again mentioning to you, the best word for outcome is outcome. So there is no other go. That is why we have been using. Let us see from PEO of a specific discipline. Let us take economics. And you have already taken from a standard or the recommendations given by the NAC. And apart from that, specific to economy, you have arrived at certain other outcome. Now remember, don't try to bring the economic topics again in the outcomes. The outcome should be imbibed with the competencies like communication skill or other hard skills, and the soft skills like the attitudinal outcome like ethics or the societal responsibility and things, and or environmental awareness, etc., etc., which is imbibed in the core competencies of economics. You cannot treat them in isolation. Then it is not called outcome. Outcome is always imbibed competencies. So how to do it? It may be very complex. You cannot, I'm sorry, I'm not degrading you. You cannot understand right now unless and otherwise you go a workshop-based definition of knowledge structures, authentic task, etc., etc. Let us see that. Now, this is a very complex framework to develop learning outcome. It consists of a key learning areas in a specific program. For instance, in economy, key learning areas must be specified by Government of India. For example, UGC or NAC or NBA, etc., etc., must define these key learning areas. Now, the key learning areas should be universal at the same time for a specific percentage. I am not recommending. For example, it could be 20 to 25% should cater to Indian condition. This should be the policy of government. So your key learning areas should not specify contemporary core. For example, in engineering technology, let us take an engineering technology. The subject content may change or the syllabus will change. 50% of it will become obsolete in 4 to 5 years' time. In circuit branches in engineering technology like electronics and communication engineering or instrumentation engineering, 50% of the syllabus will become obsolete in 3 years' time. In computer applications and computer technology or information technology, believe it or not, 50% of the current syllabus will become obsolete in 1 year time. That means in a 4-year course or a 5-year MCA course, what the student is learning now, he will never be able to use it when he after his graduation. That means you have imbibed or combined the contemporary core into the fundamental core. That is the mistake done. Now, what teacher must do is, he must take the key learning area in which certain percentage is meant for Indian condition. If your vision mission is for rural uplift, let us say for pan-Indian condition, then you can have almost all the key learning areas. You have to imbibe with the contemporary core which is taken from your POs or program specific outcome which is meant for rural uplift. If your definition of vision mission is for globalization, then you must define in your POs globalization, those definitions which is meant for Western countries, etc., etc., and then bring it as a contemporary core. So you must take the fundamental core for a specific key learning areas from your course definitions or syllabus, and then you have to do an anatomy with your existing core. If it is combined, you have to differentiate between the fundamental core and contemporary core, and then cross-disciplinary core. The future is going to be transdisciplinary. It is not going to be treated as engineering technology itself. The engineering technology will be merged with, or it will be integrated with sociology, with psychology, with physics, chemistry, economics, commerce, whatnot. We should not say, I know only commerce. In future, you may have to apply this commerce to engineering tech. For example, physics will be integrated with electronics engineering in future. It's not going to happen even in 1 or 2 years' time. So you cannot say that I know only economics, I know only sociology. The sociology will come to engineering. It will come to medicine also. So in your institute, if your definition is for certain applications area, then you must bring appropriate cross-disciplinary. First, it will be cross-disciplinary. Then it will become multidisciplinary. Then it will become interdisciplinary. Then it will become transdisciplinary. In transdisciplinary, economy will come, finance will come, political science will come, everything will come in teaching medical science or in teaching engineering technology. He cannot say, I am an engineer, I know only civil engineering. It's not going to happen. It's not. Integration is going to happen in the future, and it is called holistic approach. Now, before getting or defining your LOs or designing your LOs for your specific teaching learning process, you must do this anatomy first. Fundamental core, contemporary core, cross-disciplinary core, where exactly you are taking. And this will differ from institute to institute, program to program. It all depends upon your vision, mission statement or PEO statement, which you have mentioned. And depending upon the learner characteristics, it is going to be learner-centric. As I told you, I am enacting as your student of economics. I am coming from a South India, from a rural place. Let us assume my communication skill is poor. My understanding of Indian upliftment of Indian sociology, etc., are very, very poor. I know only certain aspects of economy. It is up to you as a teacher to make me as a good economist, which is imbibed with other qualities. That is called outcomes. That is lying with you as a teacher. You are going to facilitate me. And how to do it? You have to be specific, subject-specific pedagogy. Now again another one comes. That is what the metacognition comes. The metacognition is the nature of the student's learner characteristics, the nature of the student teacher characteristics, and the nature of the subject content and the definition. And what are all the PSO or POs which you have mentioned? If you want to imbibe, let us say, environmental science or environmental awareness in economy, or finance or political science in economy, then you must imbibe accordingly. You have to change the pedagogy. That is what OBE allows you to do it, to define authentic tasks. Now, before getting into authentic tasks, using this fundamental core, contemporary core, and cross-disciplinary core for every episode in the classroom. I again repeat, it is not a topics which the teacher is covering in the classroom. It is the concept which he is taking and then teaching me in the classroom. Now, at this juncture, I will put one more aspect of a teacher characteristics. You can automate everything in the world, like production, like service, everything can be automated. But teaching alone cannot be automated. Because a teacher, I love one particular teacher. Why? Because of metacognition. Now, that is something to do with emotion. Ethics, I must incorporate in the core competency, which is emotional. Now, societal responsibility, emotional. Now, emotion cannot be automated. No computer in the world can automate emotion. At least I do not know. Maybe in another 100 years' time, you cannot automate it. So, you can automate everything which is logically defined. But blood is thicker than water. So, emotion cannot be automated, and where exactly the metacognition comes and the teaching learning takes place using the metacognitive characteristics of a particular student and a particular teacher. How this one evolves, that is why a teacher cannot be removed, and future the only highest paid job will be a teacher, because you can automate everything. A teaching learning in the concept, you cannot remove a teacher. Teacher will remain. But at the same time, outcome-based education, for example, you are giving an information that is not needed for a student. What a student requires is a concept, not rote information. If you are telling what is data structures in the classroom, blah, 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 you are telling, and you are telling a student to note down, that is, you are trying to give a rote information. Now, I will laugh at you. As a student, now I can go to Google search or Yahoo search or whatever search. Within a few seconds, I'm going to get hundreds and thousands of rote information. What you are giving is most likely a wrong information. That is what, as a students, we will be discussing about ourselves, and we are going to laugh at you. what you are going to give us, what we as a students are looking forward to you is a fundamental concept according to where exactly you are taking us. You are taking us to an aspiring learner characteristics. What I have aspired for, that is why I have come to your institute. What is defined in your vision mission, that is the aspiring characteristics which you are taking the students up. So accordingly, you have to build the knowledge structure. Knowledge structure is a schemata which has imbibed with the particular competency with your core. In the core competencies like economy, you are imbibing a particular competency in articulating socio-culture is the LO which you are imbibing and defining the knowledge structure. So the knowledge structure is not topic. What your syllabus is mentioning is topic, which I am not interested as a student. In fact, you have mentioned textbook. Textbook are not there in OBE. In OBE says it is a full-fledged freedom is given to a teacher, which according to your vision mission PEO, you are teaching me a concept and allowing me to develop my competency. That is the idea behind the knowledge structure. Then the knowledge structure imbibed with a real world problem. You take any program, let us take fine arts or a Hindi language program. Everything has got a real world application. You must find out, as a teacher, you must find out that real world problem, an appropriate real world problem, which is what is the aspiring learner characteristics which you are going to imbibe in the form of LOs, that you should bring it. It is not an easier task to bring out, to do an anatomy with fundamental core, contemporary core, cross-disciplinary core, with a topic, existing topic of a particular program. You are designing a knowledge structure. Then you are defining a real-world problem and appropriately imbibing the student learner learning outcome. Now the LOs are coming here. You select from an already established learning outcome. Like, for example, there are 400, 500 learning outcomes are available. Semantic mapping, concept mapping, performing virtuosity, articulating content, articulating socio-culture. These terms, you cannot change it. Now, when you bring those LOs and then merge it with this thing, you are imbibing. It is an art by the teacher. Once this is done, a concept is taught to me through authentic task, which is a real world problem. I will be motivated and I will finally get an outcome. So for every activity, you can expect an outcome from the student, and that is LO. That is the learning outcome. It could happen not in a unit, in an episode in a classroom, or in a laboratory class, or in a group discussion, or a peer-to-peer learning, or self-regulated learning. I myself learn it. It could happen. And that is what a teacher must ascertain. Finally, he gets the CO. Now, I will give certain knowledge structure component in two disciplines which I have hurriedly defined. The teachers of physics and chemistry, please forgive me if you find some errors, then you correct it. I have given some examples in physics, for example. There is a saying that electrical energy is only and only due to physics. So you cannot put it for every electronics engineer or electrical engineer learns physics. One topic I have taken, hydrostatic pressure. Now I will request the teachers of physics to look into it. It could be a mistake. Please bear with me. This is a fundamental core logic because that is what UGC has defined. Example, we will assume that this has been specified by NAC or NBA or any other body like UGC. They should have defined for Indian condition. Even if your definition of vision mission is for globalization, even then, since this is defined as a fundamental core logic or a key learning area, you take it, you consider as an hydrostatic pressure. Then your contemporary core logic could be for your specific vision mission, I will show you an example of computer science later at the end of this class. Underwater devices. Underwater devices uses the principle of hydrostatic pressure. This is what I presume a physicist could agree with me. Now, the cross-discipline area could be civil engineering. You have taken civil engineering because your institute, for example, it is catering to uplifting rural India through engineering technology. So your physics should talk about the cross-discipline civil engineering. In civil engineering, they use offshore oil platform in offshore of, let us say, Mumbai. Then or Brewell hydrophone, a deep water underwater microphone, or GoPro high resolution scuba camera used in marine engineering. So you talk about the working principle of these underwater devices and then explain, or the learner learns. Now here you are not teaching, you are not testing what you have taught the student. It is the learner learns according to where exactly you are taking me as a student. So finally the hydrostatic pressure is learnt by me, but I know how to apply for underwater devices for civil engineering and marine engineering, or nanotechnology, a diesel deep saline water resistant watch. Now all these products are contemporary core logic used in a particular cross discipline, and your knowledge structure defines very clearly using a schemata how you are taking the instruction. Immediately you are assessing me through an assessing instruments called the rubrics, and it is not a testing me, or I am not worried about examination. It is not examination driven, it is continuous formative assessment. I'll take another example, FCL. Newton's law of inertia. This has been specified by UGC. Let us assume CCL is a contemporary core is polar moment of inertia or mass moment of inertia. This is what you have specified in your POs or PSO or PEO. Now the cross discipline is mechanical engineering. For pump design, for minimizing water hammer effect, he should know the difference between polar moment of inertia or mass moment of inertia in a pipeline design for water hammer effect or surge analysis. This is what, as a physicist, you are taking me using your knowledge structure. Another example is nuclear energy and the generation of number 3 advanced reactor principles. This is what your PEO says, and the cross discipline is electrical engineering. This is for pan-Indian condition. You have to appreciate the utilization of thorium, because the utilization of thorium in developing generation of power is very much needed for India, because your vision statement is for pan-Indian condition. So this is what an example given. You cannot take the other material for development. That is called outcome-based education. I'll give you some examples of chemistry. Chemical compounds, the CCL could be pigments and binders. Cross-discipline could be chemical engineering, enhancing the durability of paint or reduction of odor in paints. Another example is the chemical reactions, issue of polythene forming. The cross-discipline could be petroleum engineering, offshore crude oil mobile testing kit designed by companies like Engineers India Limited in Delhi and so on. Now, how you are imbibing this quality, I have not come to the other competencies what the students require, namely the articulating ability, the hard skill and the soft skill. Now, that should be imbibed in the authentic task. Now, I'm sorry about it. I wanted to show you somehow because of technical problem. This is I'm unable to show you. I'm just giving you a slide presentation. The knowledge structure and the authentic task is rationale. It involves each one the fundamental core logic, core basis, the fundamental principles of your discipline, and the contemporary core. Like that, for every episode you are defining. For example, if you have 50 topics in your current syllabus of a particular course in economics, let us assume the knowledge structures could be 300 to 350 knowledge structures will come. Not that, don't be afraid that not that every knowledge structures will be taught in the classroom. In the classrooms, you might take only the conceptual knowledge structures, the informative knowledge structures will go to VLE as your presentation. Another point which you, as a teacher you must know, OBE is win-win-win for everyone. It is for teachers because it is going to as a business sector. Unfortunately, education is no longer in the service sector in higher education. OBE is promoting as a business sector. Even if you don't like it to become a businessman, it's going to yield a lot of money to teachers because the teachers are going to define, develop knowledge structure for a specific learner characteristics, for a specific vision mission, and you put most of your content in your VLE, which will be put in the public domain for every login. For example, 500 students are logging, you may not get money. But if it is going to become thousands upon thousands of students from Africa or from Far East or Middle East, the students are going to log in, you are going to get some amount. Even if it is with 5 naya paise and the institute will share with some amount, you are going to become a millionaire. I'm not just joking. It is just a reality which is going to come. In future, a teacher will become a businessman. That is what we'll be insisting for. And the students, it is a win for students because they are getting competencies. It is the win for outside world because they are going to fit in. Every organization which is going to recruit your students are going to succeed. Your institute also is going to become rich because OBE is heading towards a business organization. Now, once you got the LOs, or that is the evidence what the students are going to obtain, and after graduation it will be measured in terms of POs. Now another point which I want to put, how it is imbibing. Now imbibing of 3 characters. One is the abilities. For example, critical thinking ability, effective citizenship, that is what NAC has specified, self-regulated lifelong learning. This is, if you can put it as an ability. Other abilities to come could come, and it is with the responsibilities of the students through hard skills. For example, communication skill, effective communication skill could be a hard skill, and the knowledge of environment and sustainability or social interaction in teamwork or project management, etc., etc., or responsibility. Now we'll go to your core knowledge. Let us take an example of physics, chemistry. You are taking the students from theoretical knowledge to applied knowledge because that is the concept, processes, and analysis in your discipline. You are taking me as a student from theoretical to applied. For example, depending upon your definition of your vision mission, sociology or psychology departments could take from research to transformational area from within my studies. If the studies are going to be 4-year course or 3-year course in my core area, let us say in sociology and psychology, you are taking me through this transformation. Now, from traditional to modern, it could be for economics and commerce. You are taking me from traditional to modern, according to your vision mission. Similarly, literature, fine arts, in these 3 areas, like concepts, core areas, core knowledge, you are taking me from popular to a forefront. This is an example I'm giving. You can work out according to your vision mission. You have to work out. Now, this is only the core area. You are taking me slowly to a merger. It is not treated in isolation. You are taking critical thinking ability in sociology, or you can take ethics in sociology. The particular topic or a particular knowledge structure of literature, of a particular knowledge structure in physics, chemistry, you are imbibing social interaction or effective communication. And this is the merged area in which transformational OB is taking place at the center. You are taking from serialistic to holistic intrapersonal abilities. You are taking the self of a student to societal responsibilities through interpersonal abilities called responsibilities. Now, when it is merger is taking place in these abilities and responsibilities, or civic or hard skill and soft skill, you can assess him through third component like group discussions, peer-to-peer learning, or self-regulated learning, or the uses of VLEs. You can measure through rubrics. How to measure the responsibilities of hard skills with your core? You can measure through authentic task if undefined. Same thing with abilities and your core competency. So you may know how the imbibing is taking place from soft skill along with your core competencies. This is what this slide I want to show. Now let us go to example. Now I have taken two examples in the computer science program of your institute. Let us say there is one institute A. There is another institute by your side B in Rajasthan, Jaipur itself. Let us assume two institutes are existing. Now let us take your institute A and B have different vision. Your institute A has defined like to be a center of excellence in effective integration of information and communication technology for product development in a global perspective. I'll repeat, the important one is global perspective is the vision statement of Institute A, but the common programs, yes, computer science program is being taught in both the institute. Now let us go to Institute B, which is just nearby. There is no competition between these your institute because their vision mission is different. Their vision to be a renowned program for satisfying ICT needs of rural and underprivileged in pan-Indian environment. Institute B is for pan-Indian. Institute A is for global perspective. Both have CS program. Let us go to mission statement. For a specific mission, this is only an example. I have given a typical example, sample. To develop students focusing on their careers in global market. Here you have defined global perspective, so it is aligned with global market. B, Institute B, to provide comprehensive ICT experience to students for uplifting rural society. See, it is matching, it is aligning with pan-Indian environment. Let us go to a particular PEO statement. Graduates will be prepared with skills in the ever-changing ICT environment. Now here PEO, a typical PEO, graduates will be prepared with an ethical work culture for taking ICT to rural India. So this is totally different PEOs, totally different mission, but the program is same. Let us take a particular recommended PO of NAC. NAC has given 5 recommended POs. I have taken PO 1 here, PO 2 here. It is just a repetition here. I am not changing anything, but your actual PO should be changed. I will show you in the next slide. Now the PO 1 recommended by NAC is take informed actions after identifying blah, 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 blah. At your leisure time, you can go through this PO1. This is stated by, recommended by NAC. PO2 is taken for this particular PEO and this particular mission and this particular vision by this Institute B. They have taken PO2, that is speak, read, write, listen, etc., which is different from this PO. Let us go to the next slide. Now, PO stated by your Institute A, ability to use technique and skills in analyzing software products for global market sustainability. Now, this is matching with the vision, mission, PO, and you have considered as a standard given by NAC as PO1. Institute B, ability to design, implement, and evaluate software and hardware systems to meet social, political, ethical, health, and economical rural needs of India. Because this vision mission is for pan-Indian conditions. So your PO has totally changed. Now let us take key learning area. Key learning area is common, which is specified by NAC or UGC or NBA or AICT, whatever it could be. Differentiate fibers from multi-threading in operating system. This is a concept given as a key learning area by the national body. I have taken an example. What is the difference between fiber and multi-threading in operating system? Let us assume CO statement. Now the CO statement, it is a statement with LOs. Remember, CO is not outcome. We have not come to outcome. The outcome is performing virtuosity. Performing virtuosity is LO. That has been imbibed in the statement of CO for a particular concept called differentiating fibers from multi-threading. Ability in performing virtuosity is an LO. In differentiating fibers of Microsoft Windows, you see, contemporary core is coming. From multi-threading of Linux OS, you see how contemporary core is coming. For deciding on critical situation in the global market. So in the global market, your vision mission is coming and your PEO is coming. They have all mentioned with performing virtuosity, which has imbibed the required LO. Now let us go to how the LO of not only core, it is of a communication skill, it is of ethics, which is ability, which is attitude, and the hard skill, how it is imbibed in the core content. Let us see in B, Institute B. Ability in articulating socioculture. Articulating socioculture, I have given in italics, it is an LO, which differentiates between fibers of proprietary operating system, because you know social aspects or ethics is coming, and open source OS for appropriate design. So the student is articulating, he is developing the debating ability, communication skill is coming, and his socio-culture is coming for pan-Indian condition. You see how it has integrated the hard skill with soft skill for your vision mission of the Institute B to learn differentiating fibers from multi-threading. Authentic learning outcome. Performing virtuosity in a lower level, because performing virtuosity is low level of attaining the CO. Articulating social culture. This is designed by pedagogists. This is of medium level. Now this should be taught in the classroom in a particular cognitive structure. This knowledge structure is taught in a particular cognitive structure where exactly the metacognition comes. Now this is critical thinking ability of the PO1 defined by NAC. Now here PO2 it says effective communication, and PO3 social interaction is coming in NAC. This is in the medium level, this is in the low level of a particular episode of differentiating multi-threading from fibers. Each institute is taking in a different level. This is a typical example. I want to show how this is defined. All right, with I do not know how to take further. I will put an objective of my full course. It is determining your current learner characteristics and correlating with your institutional characteristics. Revising your existing vision, mission, PEOs and POs of your institutional characteristics and aspiring learner characteristics. This is mentioned in here. Designing knowledge structure as per aspiring context of your learners. Delivering authentic task and obtaining that course outcome as per your learner characteristics using metacognition in the classroom or allowing them to learn self-regulated learning. Continuously assess your learners as per best practices. This is given by Marzano or Jonas and Tersmer or David Merrill's model, which is different from Bloom's model. Bloom's model cannot be used in higher education. Take it from me, you can use Bloom's taxonomies, but better taxonomies have come using Marzano's phrases and so on for a pedagogy oriented or subject specific pedagogy. You can define it. You need not, you cannot use Bloom's model here, because Bloom's model is an excellent model for lower education. Up to primary school or kindergarten or up to 9th standard, you can use it. Up to 9th standard, you cannot use outcome-based education, because outcome-based education is developmental. It is non-linear. So Bloom's model cannot be used. But taxonomy is better. Taxonomies can be used. You can, which includes Bloom's also. Apprise your higher education teacher and own your knowledge structure. Once 300, 400 knowledge structures is used, in my opinion, a blue color is my suggestion. It is up to your institute. The teacher will start earning money through the public domain. When students are using from Africa, etc., he will get some money. Maybe 50% is as a self-property for the teacher, and your institute can transfer 50% of the money. So every teacher will be different. A particular teacher may get 1 million viewers of his core content, information. And another teacher in same economy could get maybe 400 viewers. So definitely it will create a competition among teachers. Okay, the main modules of the teacher needs training in characteristics, which may take 1.5 to 2 days. 6 hours means 9 hours of lecture with around 1,000 slides in all these characteristics. It is a very big program. It's a workshop-oriented program. Institutional characteristics may take 1.5 to 2 days time, and instructional characteristics may take 3 or 4 days time with around 25 workshops. And assessment characteristics will be imbibed with several characteristics, several maybe through 2 to 3 days time. Curricular characteristics may take half a day to teacher characteristics, again half day to 1 day. This program may take 10 days or to 15 days or 4 sessions, 1.5 sessions with around maybe 50 workshops. It is a big 200-page workshops I got with around 1,000 slides. That is the main program. I just wanted to give an overview of the main thing, how to develop learner characteristics. I have used a lot of terminologies here, and the main program only a teacher will thoroughly understand outcome-based education. I take this opportunity. I also mentioned some teachers might say, I am already practicing this method in the classroom. Maybe this is too often defined principles in isolation, but not using a scientific framework like the knowledge structures and authentic tasks. This is what the publication says. I take this opportunity to once again thank Professor Vijay Rathore, who has taken a very personal initiative in calling me, and also Professor Rocky Gupta, the registrar, and also Professor Remika, who is arranging this program. I do not know, because this program was not defined. I suppose this has given you some idea to you, and any questions raised, you can now contact me. Yes, madam, what should I do now?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. That was indeed a very, very exhaustive walk through the entire framework. And when one has begun to start demystifying the framework in terms of its very, very vital components. Of course, now the session is open for queries and questions. I think in the interest of time, and also so that sir is at least able to answer a few, I request the attendees to maybe either raise their hand or type in their queries in the chat box, as was advised to them in the beginning of the talk. So it will be easier for us to take them one by one. So if we have...
I'm sorry, I did not show my slides. Showing means it would have been very clear. Unfortunately, I do not know, there is a technical thing problem. Okay.
No problem, sir. We got a fair enough idea. In fact, a very, very detailed idea also at places in terms of what you were trying to see. We do have a question, sir. Oh, it's not a question really. I think one of my colleagues is asking those who wish to ask the question to also turn on their camera for a photo.
Okay. Otherwise, they can even send it to...
That's right. That's right. Your email ID is very visible here. So they may write to you, and like you very generously offer to share your PPT with us. So I think we will also further share it with our colleagues, and it will probably um, answer quite a lot of questions which they may not have at this point in time. Anyone who would want to ask a question, he or she may unmute and ask it, or better still would be to type it out in the chat box and we can take
How
it
many
up.
viewers are there?
So we have 100, I think 111 to be precise, and we are also live streaming on YouTube. So we are being able to reach out to as many people out there as well, not just within the institution. So over 100, sir. Yes.
Okay, okay, no
Um,
problem.
no questions yet. I'm just. I think you've given all of us a lot of food for thoughts while we're still mulling.
Okay, no problem. There are so many terminologies and all, so I just I can't help because if we look at assessment, for example, it's still confusing because we cannot segregate assessment from teaching learning.
Absolutely, sir. Teaching learning strategies and assessment strategies go hand in hand, and one has to align the pedagogical interventions with the assessment process. Absolutely right. I think in that case, I request all my colleagues, the attendees, to please turn on their camera. We'll have a group photo of sorts, a virtual group photo for the benefit of our archival records. So everyone to please turn on their videos. Okay. Amita, you could do that because you're the administrator.
As Sammanathan sir, your face is not visible properly. You go a little back.
Yeah, okay, sir.
You go a little back.
Thank you for giving me. Yes, sir, I can see you. Was it okay? Was it up to expected? Because I just wanted to give a brief overview only with about. This is not
nice.
Actually, we are not even okay, sir.
I'm just telling that your face is not visible properly, so you go a little bit back, so that it will be yeah.
Yes, sir. And if you could just look into your camera also on the screen, sir. So yes, sir. That's much better, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Should we request Kikesh or anyone else to click? We're just trying a few options, sir, for some picture clarity purposes. We've got some basic photos, one or two more for some clearer pictures. So just bear with us for a few more minutes, sir. Right, sir. I think we've got our photos. Thank you very much, Dr. Sambanathan. That was most kind of you to accede to our invitation to talk to us. And maybe going forward, we're going to have more sessions for you to explain us in greater detail, because like you yourself at places mentioned that it does get a bit confusing, and then to go on to the assessment strategies. So I thank you very much. And of course, our colleague, Professor Vijay Rathod, who was instrumental in bringing you over to us. Thank you so much. On behalf of KIS University, I extend a very heartfelt thanks. Thank you very much. Thank you all for attending.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sammanathan, for giving your time and delivering such